I call the honourable member Chris Hipkin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking forward to taking a very brief call on this.
Mr. Miller.
I'm going to take a very brief call on this gambling harm reduction amendment bill, and I have to say, there's a certain sense of irony in this, in that that a gambling harm reduction amendment bill, as this one is called, is now actually widely accepted outside of Parliament to, in fact, increase harm associated with gambling rather than decrease it. So I think perhaps we should spend quite a lot of time debating whether, in fact, the bill is appropriately titled, because clearly not. When you've got groups like the Salvation Army arguing that, and this is a direct quote from them, for those of us who deal with the problems created by poking machines every day, this bill, on balance, will make matters worse. The Problem Gambling Foundation saying, I think what we are seeing is a proposed radical rewrite of the bill, and I don't think it will do a great deal for harm minimisation at all. And I could go on. Unfortunately, what's happened is this bill, it wasn't a particularly... I think I had some big concerns about the bill when it was first introduced. I thought in some areas it went too far, and in fact, there were concerns about whether, in fact, the bill even would have been enforceable in the form that it was introduced. I had a lot of feedback from local authorities, for example, in my area, who were saying, look, we don't really want the responsibility of having to distribute, to be responsible for the distribution of pokie machine proceeds. And so, the bill as introduced definitely needed some major change. What's happened, though, is that major change has now made it, basically it's completely removed the original intent. I think that there are a number of supplementary order papers put forward by members that I will certainly support. The one that I have some concern about, and therefore won't be voting in favour of them, are those that specify a certain percentage of pokie machine proceeds that must be distributed within the geographical area from which they are taken. And the reason that I'm concerned about that is the potential effect they may have on national organisations, because actually there are a number of very, very valuable, genuinely charitable community organisations that don't necessarily work within a defined geographical area, but in fact operate throughout the country. And so one of the concerns that I've got is if you say, and it's a fair argument to make, that this money is taken out of this particular community and therefore should be invested back into the community. That's something that I strongly believe in. But by saying that the only organisations that contribute back to that community are those that are based within that community, that's wrong, because actually some of the Trevor Mallett suggesting I put in a further amendment, but some of the organisations that contribute very positively to some low socioeconomic communities, for example, might actually have their head offices or whatever based in wealthier areas. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not contributing. Well, in fact, in many, many cases, they're contributing very positively to other communities. And so I'd hate to see an amendment passed in this House that would prevent the proceeds from pokie machines going into those organisations who are doing such valuable work. So I'm going to be voting against that set of amendments, and there's a variety of them that have been put forward. Ultimately, problem gambling has a big impact on many people in the community. It is a small group of problem gamblers that have a really, really big problem, but we need to be very mindful of the massive social harm that causes and the ripple effect. So it might be a small group of people who actually have the problem with gambling themselves, but the effect of that problem gambling ripples out to a large number of people, their friends, their family, their employers, and it really does have a big impact in the community. So whenever we make decisions about gambling law and policy in this House, we need to be very mindful of that. And I think that there's going to be another debate coming up very shortly where we are going to be talking about problem gambling and the opportunity to increase problem gambling, and that is the one that I am very much looking forward to debating.
Chair.
I call the honourable member Sam Lotuinga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. It's a pleasure to take a call